On July 30th, 1945, a captain made a choice that would cost 880 men their lives, and he didn't know it yet. Captain Charles McVay commanded the USS Indianapolis, a heavy cruiser built to absorb punishment. By July 1945, the war in the Pacific was ending. Japan was collapsing. The Indianapolis had already survived 3 kamikaze attacks and countless combat sorties. McVay was an experienced officer, 42 years old, respected by his crew of 196 men. On July 16th, he received orders to transport uranium enrichment material and bomb components to the island of Tinian. The cargo was classified. No one aboard knew what they were carrying. No one understood the weight of what they held. McVay faced a decision. The route from Guam to Tinian was 200 nautical miles through enemy waters. Intelligence reports suggested Japanese submarine activity was minimal. The war was nearly finished. The faster route would shave 8 hours off the journey. McVay could zigzag, a defensive maneuver that reduced speed, or he could run straight, faster, trusting that the seas were quiet. He chose speed, straight line, no zigzagging. The calculation seemed sound based on what he knew. It was the wrong call. July 30th, 11:36 p.m. The Indianapolis was 4 days into its voyage. The sea was calm. The night was moonless. Most of the crew was asleep. The ship ran dark, no exterior lights. At that exact moment, 800 miles away, Japanese submarine I-58 was hunting. Its captain, Hashimoto, had been tracking the Indianapolis for hours. He'd spotted the silhouette against the starlight. 1 torpedo tube was loaded. One chance. At 11:36 p.m., Hashimoto fired. 2 torpedoes left the I-58. The first hit the Indianapolis on the starboard side, forward of the bridge. The explosion was catastrophic. It severed the ship's bow. The second torpedo hit moments later, tearing open the engine room. The Indianapolis, unsinkable by reputation, was sinking. McVay had no time to send a distress signal, no time to prepare the lifeboats, no time to do anything but watch his ship die. 12 minutes. That's how long the Indianapolis stayed afloat. Of the 196 men aboard, 900 survived the sinking. They spilled into the Pacific Ocean in the dark. Most had no lifeboats. The ship went down too fast. They clung to floating debris, life rafts, anything that floated. The water was warm, around 82 degrees. That would matter. That would keep them alive just long enough to suffer. McVay was in the water with them. He'd done everything right as a captain in those final moments. And now he was treading water in the dark, knowing no one knew where they were. Here's what the Navy didn't know. The Indianapolis never sent a distress call. The radio was destroyed. The ship went down in silence. Protocol required escort ships to report the Indianapolis's arrival at Tinian. No one expected them to arrive damaged. No one was looking. No one knew 900 men were dying in the dark. The rescue operation wouldn't begin for another 84 hours. That gap, that void between catastrophe and discovery, was where the real horror lived. As dawn broke on July 31st, the men realized their situation. They were scattered across miles of ocean. The lifeboats held maybe 150 men total. The rest, 750 men, were in the water. Some clung to flotsam. Others floated alone, treading water to stay alive. The sun climbed higher. By noon it was brutal. The water temperature that had seemed merciful now became a slow cook. Dehydration set in immediately. Men were surrounded by salt water and couldn't drink a drop. Thirst became an obsession within hours. But thirst wasn't the worst part. By afternoon on July 31st, the sharks came. The blood in the water, the distressed swimmers, the chaos, all of it signaled a feeding opportunity. They came in groups, attacking from below. The men couldn't see them until it was too late. A limb would vanish. A scream would cut short. The sharks were tiger sharks and reef sharks, species known for aggression. Within hours, dozens of men were dead. The survivors huddled together in tighter groups, trying to protect the center. It didn't always work. Night fell again. The men were exhausted, terrified, dehydrated. Some had been treading water for 18 hours straight. Hypothermia was setting in despite the warm water. Exhaustion and exposure worked together. Men began to hallucinate. Some thought they saw islands. Some thought rescue ships were coming. Some simply let go and slipped beneath the surface. By dawn on August 1st, another 100 men were gone. The living floated among the dead. They had to push corpses away to make room. August 1st and 2nd blurred together. The sharks continued their work. Thirst became unbearable. Men drank salt water in desperation, which accelerated their dehydration and pushed them toward delirium. Some men became aggressive. Groups fractured. In one horrifying incident, survivors believed a man was a Japanese officer and killed him. It wasn't. The psychological deterioration was as deadly as the physical one. By August 2nd, the group had shrunk to maybe 400 conscious men. 80 had been in the water for more than 60 hours. The Navy's search didn't begin until August 2nd, nearly 36 hours after the sinking. A patrol plane spotted wreckage and a group of survivors. The discovery set off a massive rescue operation. Ships and planes converged on the location, But the ocean is vast. The survivors were scattered across miles. The rescue took another full day. Men were pulled from the water one by one, many barely conscious. Some didn't survive the rescue. They'd endured 4 days in the Pacific. Their bodies simply gave out. The final count, 316 men rescued. Out of 196, only 316 survived. That means 880 men died, 579 in the shark attacks, the rest from exposure, dehydration, and despair. It remains the deadliest maritime disaster in U.S. Navy history. More Americans died on the USS Indianapolis in 4 days than died on the USS Arizona at Pearl Harbor. The difference was that Pearl Harbor was an attack everyone saw coming. The Indianapolis sank in silence, and no one came looking for 84 hours. Captain McVay survived. He was rescued on August 2nd and court-martialed 6 months later. The Navy blamed him for the loss of his ship. They charged him with failing to zigzag, failing to abandon ship in time, and failing to send a distress signal. The irony is brutal. The distress signal was impossible. The radio was destroyed instantly. The charge that stuck was negligence. McVay was convicted and sentenced to lose a month's pay. 12 years later, in 1957, he would take his own life. The Navy never officially exonerated him. The captain made a choice, one choice, based on intelligence that turned out to be wrong. He didn't know the I-58 was hunting. He didn't know his distress signal would fail. He didn't know that 84 hours would pass before anyone came looking. He made the decision a reasonable commander would make. It cost 880 lives. That's the weight of command. That's the cost of being wrong when you're right by the standards of your time. The USS Indianapolis wreck wasn't discovered until 2017, 72 years after it sank. It lies 18,000 feet down in the Philippine Sea in darkness. The survivors' stories, though, those live on. They're preserved in testimonies, in books, in the memory of families who lost fathers and brothers to 4 days in hell. The Indianapolis is a monument to how quickly calculation fails, how fast the ocean claims what it wants, and how the margin between survival and catastrophe is often just a few miles and a few hours of luck. The story of the Indianapolis isn't really about sharks or survival. It's about the decisions we make in the gaps between what we know and what we think we know. Captain McVay made the choice that seemed sound. The Navy made the choice to delay the search. The intelligence officers made the choice to downplay the submarine threat. Each decision was rational. Each one was wrong. And 880 men paid the price for those choices, stacking on top of each other. Subscribe for the unsolved maritime disasters and forgotten catastrophes that shaped history. There's a new story of survival and loss every week.